Hey guys, we're gonna work on this homework and build on what we saw before. So in our notes, dilation of the center point, we noticed we created a whole bunch of ratios. So like new length over old, new distance over old, new vertical distance over old, new horizontal distance over old. All these, if I made it twice as big, all of these would be could be reduced to the fraction 2/1 or 2. And all of these fractions, if I cut the shape in half, would be the decimal 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. All of them would be the same decimal. So using this information, we can actually solve for a missing side if going backwards, we know that they're similar. So these are similarity statements. They're saying this triangle here is similar to there, and that symbol just means similar. That means similar. So we just have to make sure we set it up in the right ratio so that our math turns out correct. So I'm just going to call this one my new one and my old one, and it won't matter as long as I'm consistent. But let's say this is my new one. And if I look at this length here, my new length is 70, KU. So if I look here, KU is first and last in my similarity statement. Okay, so if that's my new length, what was my old length? Well, my old length has to be KM. KM. So this is my old length. So I'm going to make a ratio, new length over old length. And now I'm going to pick a different corresponding side. So I see this 55. That's going to be my new length. And I just have to find the corresponding side. So my new length is 55. What was my old length? So KT, that's first two letters. So I know my old length was the first two letters, KL. So that's what I'm actually solving for. So I'm going to make that an X. If I'm solving for an unknown side, I can just make that X and then solve. So my new length is 55. My old length is, I don't know. Now, notice, back from middle school, once we set up corresponding sides, we can cross multiply to solve. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. If I multiplied 70 times X, I get 70X. If I multiply 154 here, right? So we grab a calculator. We get 121. There we go. Now let's do another one. New length over old length. So I'm just going to call this one my new one and this one my old one. So my new length is 48. Well, what was my old length? So my new length is 48. What was my old length? Well, 48 is DE or ED, the first two letters. So my old one has to be the first two letters, TS. So TS here is 30. Okay. Now let's pick another corresponding side. So my new length that I want to solve for, I'm going to call X. So my new length is X. What was the old length before it got bigger? Let's see. My new length is DC, and that's middle and last. So I want to make sure I grab middle and last, SR. So SR is 45, so I put that there. Now we cross multiply to solve. So 30 times X is equal to 48 times 45. Awesome. All right. Now, that seems easy. How could they make it more complicated? They could lay it on top. So let's call the little one my old one. So before I made it bigger, so I'll call that one old. I have a question mark. I'm going to call that X. And this side was 36. Okay. What about my new one? So let's say I blew it up. So my new one is bigger. This side is 35, and this side is 60. So it looks, because of the orientation, it's pretty obvious that these two sides correspond, and these two sides correspond. So let's just set up the ratio and solve. So new side is 60, the corresponding side, new over old, new over old side is x, cross multiply to solve. So you might notice I've run out of room. So I'm just going to copy that ratio on the back and show my work. 60 over 36, 35 over x. 60 over 36, 35 over x. Now let's just double check I copy. Yeah, 60 over 36, 35 over x. Cool. Now let's cross multiply to solve. 60 times x. Yep, so I'm just going to transfer. I got x is equal to 21. Next one, I'll do the same thing. I'll call this old one 10 and 9, and it looks like they blew it up, and that's 63 and x. So we're looking for this top distance. So setting up. The new side length is 63 over the old side length 9. The new top is x over the old, which is 10. Now let's cross multiply to solve. So 9 times x, 63 times 10. There we go. All right. So we can keep going. They made it a little bit easier on us. Let's see. We should keep track of this just in case, because these are really close to the same size. So I'll call this one my new one and my old one. My new length, it looks really long, so I'll start with the longer one first. It shouldn't matter, but new length is UV. UV is the first two letters. So the corresponding side should be FG, the first two letters. All right, and then what would be the corresponding side? Well, the other side is 130. The new length is 130. The old length is UW. That's first and last. So I want to make sure I grab FH, and that makes sure I got the corresponding side. Now let's cross multiply to solve. So 60 times 16x minus 1 and 66 times 130. So this one, the setup is the same, but the math is a little more difficult. So let's do that. All right, now let's take a look at this one. It looks like this length, 5x plus 5, would correspond DF, so first and last. So my corresponding side has to be DW. DW. Now let's grab another corresponding. 60 in the new one would correspond to, so D, would correspond to DV. 36 in the old one. Let's cross multiply to solve. So 36 times 5x plus 5, 39 times 60. I get x is 14. All right, looking at this one, new, let's just say this one's new and old. The new longer length is 6x plus 10, GH, so middle and last. So I want to grab M in, 11 as the corresponding side. And then here, the shorter side, 56, FG, is the first and middle. That has to correspond with LM, the 7. Now let's cross multiply to solve. So 7 times 6x plus 10 and 11 times 56. I got x is 13. All right, last one. I got a little bit one. This one's a little more complicated. It's kind of interesting. All right, so I've got a little guy, 8, 11, and 14, and the bigger guy is 32, 11x, and 56. So this is my new one. This is my old one. All of these ratios should be equal to the same number. So it doesn't matter as long as you do corresponding. So the biggest number here, 56, new over old, should be equal to this other new side. The new side is 32. The corresponding old side would be 8, but that wouldn't help me solve for anything. But again, all these ratios should equal the same number. So if I picked this side, the new side is 11x, and the old side is 11. So I could actually set this up with either this blue fraction or this one, and it doesn't matter. I'm just going to pick this one and cross multiply and solve. But I should get the same answer. So I'm going to cross multiply. So 8 times 11x is equal to 11 times 32. So if I divide by 88 on both sides, I get 4. Thanks for joining us.